Now, our top story, a deal that has been caught in the diplomatic crossfire between Russia and the United States will finally be signed as the Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in New Delhi. The S-400 air defense deal is most likely to be signed by the two sides. A top Russian official has hinted. He said, and I quote, "The key feature of the visit will be the signing of the agreement to deliver S-400 air defense systems. The value of the contract will be more than $5 billion. President Putin is visiting India from Thursday for the annual India-Russia summit. For months, Moscow has been negotiating with India to sell the S-400 missiles, but US has recently enacted the CATSA, or the Countering of America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, and barred countries from purchasing Russian weapons and threatened to hit them with sanctions. India has signaled that it has asked Washington for a special waiver. Now, though this US official last week also said that there is no guarantee it would do so, the Indian Air Force Chief Marshal B.S. Dhanoa came out in full support of the S-400 missile system, calling it a booster dose for the Indian forces.
As far as the S-400 goes, the papers are with the cost negotiating committee is over, and it is with the government. And as and when the government clears it, the S-400 deal will go through. And similarly, management of, I don't think that the CATSA is going to likely to come in the way, but the decision belongs to the government.
Now, joining us to talk a little bit more about Putin's visit is Harsh Pant, Distinguished Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Now, Harsh, thanks very much for talking to us this evening. Now, the S-400 air defense system is one of the most potent defense systems in the world, we believe. Its range is 1,400 kilometers and can hit multiple targets, including those we believe above 30 kilometers. Explain to us, Harsh, why is it so vital for India to gain access to this system?
Well, Indian military, I think, believes that this is going to be a vital instrument in terms of their ability to enhance their coercive power, especially on the western frontier. We have been negotiating for a missile defense air defense system for a while, and I think this in some ways goes beyond even the THAAD, the American-led the high-altitude defense system, which the Americans have been selling to their partners. And I think, therefore, what we have seen in the last few years is the demand for S-400 has escalated, and China has already bought it. And now the countries as far as Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Iraq are all negotiating this very important and very cutting-edge technology. So for India, therefore, it is important operationally, logistically. There is also, I think, a symbolic importance of this deal. This is going to be one of the biggest deals, for example, as far as India is concerned, with Russia in a while now. And I think there's been some concern that India's relations with Russia are going down the drain for a host of reasons. They need some support. There has to be some demonstrative way of showing that Russia matters, and I think this deal showcases that to a certain degree.
Yeah, that's actually very important, Harsh, that you say that. Now, and saying that, I just want to point out that how does India then plan to walk that thin line between the United States and Russia on this? I know this has come up, in the 2+2 dialogue between US and India, and also with, of course, India making that argument that, we only follow UN sanctions and not any other, for example, CATSA. So this is a very thin line for India as it sort of tries to rebuild its relationship with Russia and stay the course with the United States as well.
Yes, and I think a couple of things India has done which are fairly interesting. One is that India has really moved ahead on its relations with America to an extent that few imagined would happen a few years back. So we have already signed 2 foundational agreements now, a logistics agreement and now COMCASA, which was signed at the 2+2 dialogue. So I think it symbolizes that India is investing in America and allaying some of those concerns that Americans have had in the past as to what India can potentially do for America and how far would India go. India is now signaling that it is willing to go all out. If you look at the matrix in terms of our defense acquisition, acquisition. Most of our defense acquisition at the moment, high value defense acquisition, is coming from America. So America is really gaining momentum insofar as a defense relationship is concerned. But India would not really like to leave Russia far behind. After all, 60% of our defense requirement is still come from Russia. There is a historical legacy issue here. So I think India is making a case that, look, if America wants a potent partner in terms of managing its Indo-Pacific strategy, if America wants a partner that can carry on more of the burden that America wants its partners to do, then I think India needs to have this engagement with Russia, and India needs to have a partner in Russia whereby India can build up its military capabilities.
Right. And Harsh, I do want to, before we wrap, just want to say that, you know, we've had some very big developments, announcements when, global leaders have been here. When the Rafale deal happened, it was a big thing as well when the Prime Minister, of course, went to France. This will be possibly happening tomorrow. But it's the bureaucratic process that takes over, which sort of delays things. And also, of course, to put this in the international perspective, all of this is also playing out. For example, there's a defense ministers meet in Brussels, and many of these issues will come up, including the sale of S-300s to Syria.
Yes, absolutely. And I think India, for one, does not have a very good track record in terms of our defense acquisition. And a lot of our partners, I think, unfortunately, what is happening with the Rafale deal, we have made France look very difficult for us as a partner in the coming years. So I think a lot of this internal politicking that happens in India makes it very difficult for our strategic partners like France and now Russia to trust that the process will be transparent, fair, and internal politicking will not take over. So as India, I think, looks for enhancing its global military footprint, India will have to develop institutional mechanisms by which these sorts of problems do not occur at home, because our partners rely on India to take these deals forward to their logical conclusion.
In other news back home, in a double whammy for the Indian economy, the rupee continues a downward spiral while crude prices are going up. The Indian rupee fell below the 73 mark against the dollar for the first time in early trade today. The Indian rupee opened at 73 rupees 25 paise against the dollar, but soon after sank to its lifetime low of 73 rupees 40 paise. Crude prices are still at their 4-year high, with Brent trading at $85.07 per barrel, and the rupee, being the worst currency in the Asian region, has lost more than 13% in 2018. The market analysts are keeping a close eye on the RBI policy review, the recent debt crisis of non-banking financial corporations, surging oil rates, and the RBI's Monetary Policy Committee is likely to increase its interest rate by the end of this week. And joining us to tell us a little bit more about the rupee's downward spiral is my colleague Sumit Chaturvedi, our business correspondent. Sumit, thanks very much for joining us. Now, as we see this free fall, what's the RBI really planning to do, and how is it that we can really stop the rupee from, falling further?
Bharvi, well, RBI and SEBI had last week announced that they will step in whenever there's need. But it looks like there's no need right now, and that's why they have not stepped in. But all eyes are on RBI's monetary policy meet, which is going to happen beginning tomorrow, and the result will be announced on Friday. Definitely, rupee weakness will be one of the agendas that will on the mind of RBI deputy governors when they decide on rates. It's quite likely rates will be raised on Friday. Well, first of all, we should tell the viewers what are the reasons why the rupee is weakening against dollar further. Yesterday, the Brent crude touched $85 to a barrel, first time since 2014. Well, India imports 80% of its crude, and now we have to pay more for our crude. That's what led to the pressure on rupee. Second, FIs, foreign institutional investors, the outflow has been staggering, worth 1,100 crore rupees. So FIs are also taking out money. They need the money in dollars, and that's why banks have to pay. Two main reasons why rupee weakness was there today. And moving forward, RBI can step in, but right now until Friday, it looks like RBI policy is in focus.
Right. And, Sumit, one of the reasons why we're seeing that the government, is not intervening, many people asking just why, is that there is a positive flip side to this as well. Explain to our viewers what that is.
Well, definitely, government is not too keen to intervene as well, because this, in a way, benefits exporters immensely, especially the backbone of Indian economy. IT sector is also getting benefit out of it. That's the reason why government is not in a panic mode as well. Economic Affairs Secretary Garg had also said that government will let it let the market forces handle all that and will not step in at this moment, because exporters are getting a benefit of it. Definitely imports, the top imports of India are crude, gold and electronic items. They are a lot of responsibility is on them, but exporters, they are a happy lot, because for them it's definitely they are earning more per dollar what they were earning earlier.
Well, moving on to other news now, there is no relief in sight in Indonesia. Just 5 days after Indonesia was hit by a devastating earthquake and tsunami, a volcano has now erupted on the Sulawesi island. Now, experts suspect that the volcano's eruption was triggered by last Friday's 7.5 magnitude earthquake. Planes have been warned of the ash cloud since the volcanic ash is hazardous for plane engines. No evacuations have been immediately ordered, but the residents have been asked to avoid the area and use masks in the event of ash fall. And in the meanwhile, Indonesia's disaster agency has confirmed that the death toll has risen to 1,407. Time is running out for anyone trapped in the debris, and rescue teams are scrambling to locate the survivors. More than 65,000 homes have been damaged and at least 60,000 people have been displaced and are in need of emergency help. Meanwhile, President Joko Widodo made his second visit to Palu to oversee the rescue efforts. Palu, northeast of the capital of Jakarta, and other parts of Sulawesi Island have been the hardest hit since the earthquake on Friday. In fact, just outside Palu, a landslide triggered by the deadly earthquake blocked an important road, stranding many people and vehicles. Among the stranded were some people who wanted to bring basic supplies to family members stuck in Palu. Now, each year, the United Nations confers its highest environmental honor to outstanding champions in the field from across the world. Now, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the French President Emmanuel Macron have been conferred with the United Nations Champions of the Earth Award for their pioneering work in championing the International Solar Alliance. Now, the landmark alliance, which involves 121 countries between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, aims to efficiently harness solar energy and reduce dependence on fossil fuel. The Indian Prime Minister first proposed the initiative in his November 2015 speech at London's Wembley Stadium. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres conferred the award to Mr. Modi in New Delhi. The United Nations has also recognized Prime Minister Modi's pledge to eliminate all single-use plastic in India by 2022. Prime Minister Modi said India was committed to save the environment.
विकसित हो रही अन्य सुविधाओं की सारी ऊर्जा जरूरतें सोलार पावर से पूरा करने का हम भरसक प्रयास कर रहे हैं। मेट्रो जैसे सिटी ट्रांसपोर्ट नेटवर्क को भी सोलार एनर्जी से जोड़ा जा रहा है। वहीं रेलवे की फॉसिल फ्यूल पर निर्भरता को हम तेजी से कम कर रहे हैं। साथियों, आज भारत में घरों से लेकर के गलियों तक, दफ्तरों से लेकर के सड़कों तक, पोर्ट से लेकर और एयरपोर्ट तक वाटर और एनर्जी कंजर्वेशन की मुहिम तेज गति से चल रही है।
Now, just yesterday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the first assembly of the International Solar Alliance, stressing that India would generate 40% of power from non-fossil fuels by 2030. But can solar energy become the preferred source of energy?
Solar mamas today deliver 1.4 gigawatts of solar power globally.
Prime Minister Modi believes that the International Solar Alliance could replace the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC. The Indian Prime Minister said that he saw the 121-country International Solar Alliance as the future OPEC for meeting energy needs of the world. The 15-nation oil cartel, OPEC, is led by Saudi Arabia and currently meets close to half of the world's energy needs. He said when solar energy becomes consistently cheaper than oil, it will automatically become the preferred source of energy. During the inaugural meeting of the International Solar Alliance, Narendra Modi said, and I quote, "We have a dream, one world, one sun, one grid. We generate round-the-clock electricity from the sun as it sets in one part of the world but rises in another part. The sun never sets for the entire earth." Stressing on the harnessing of renewable energy, the Indian Prime Minister said humans have in the last 150 to 200 years relied on resources trapped below the Earth's surface for meeting energy needs, but for a secure future, resources available above ground like solar and wind energy need to be harnessed. The Indian Prime Minister listed India's achievements, He said that India would add as much as 50 gigawatts of non-hydro renewable energy to existing 72 gigawatts and a successful marching on the way to achieve the target of having 175 gigawatts of clean energy by 2022.